alcohol markers can take your art to another level. The problem is, you may not know all the basic techniques to getting on that level, and that's okay. If you're tired of your artwork looking splotchy and streaky, or if you just don't know what brand or type of alcohol marker to use, there's a lot, I don't blame you. But there's so many people getting into alcohol markers right now because they're just dope and they're satisfying to work with. I mean, the popularity of these things have really grown over the last couple years. And there's a reason why, because they're bold and blendable and they give your artwork a vibrant pop. Unlike
water-based markers.
These useless things. They don't blend and they just bleed through the paper, so just get them out of here, because alcohol markers are superior. I specifically use Ohuhu markers. There's a whole bunch of different brands. The brand is not so much important as is the technique. So I'm going to show you how to use them. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, it would really help me out. But yeah, let's get into it. So first of all, what even is an alcohol marker? Like, what's the difference between the ones you used in grade school? But when I tell you these make a difference, I mean it. They make your artwork look
professional.
So first off, let's talk about the different kinds of markers. And more specifically the nib, the part where the color comes out of. That really matters, because you can easily make the mistake of buying the wrong type if you're not careful. You could definitely end up getting the wrong nib, and we don't want that. So like I said, brand isn't as important as technique or utility. So let's go over the different kinds of nibs, how they work, and which one's best for your application. So first up is the brush tip. This is the one we alcohol marker users love the most. It's somewhere between a paintbrush and a regular marker nib. The flexibility yet durability of the brush nib allow you to get into little smaller areas, but the brush tip also allows you to color broad areas too. With this tip you can use small circular motions or zigzag motions. Just make sure to fully saturate the area.
But wait.
Let me back up a bit. What even is an alcohol marker? The main difference between an alcohol marker and a water-based marker lies in the ink's base. Alcohol markers use alcohol as a solvent, whereas water-based uses water. Let me show you just what happens when you try to blend water-based markers. Water-based is way more prone to streakiness and they just don't really blend. Alright, let's go back to the kinds of nibs. Alright, next up we have chisel and fine point. Chisel tips are good for sharp, clean edges and covering pretty large areas, while a fine tip offers more precision for detailed work. Here are the things I mainly use the chisel tip for. Coloring broad areas because of the flat, even color it provides. Coloring straight edges or lettering borders. Using it as a wand to try to get my dog to float. Using chisel for applying highlights or shadows. Or for just working on my jump shot.
Great shot!
Alright, let's talk about the fine tip. These are the applications I would typically use it for. If I'm just coloring a flat surface and like not blending at all. The fine tip has pretty minimal bleed, so I use it if I'm coloring a small area like eyes. I also use it sometimes for touch-ups or fixing up tight spaces. Or if I have some kind of text in the picture, I'll use a fine point for that. But yeah, make sure you're paying attention when you're buying your first or next set. A lot of people intend on getting the brush tip with the chisel, but end up accidentally getting the fine point with the chisel. Alright, now let's talk about technique when blending. So before we can learn how to blend, we have to learn to just color. Because if your fundamentals aren't there, your blending won't be either. Let me show you an example of what not to do first. When you're coloring in, avoid this. I'm making wide, fast strokes. It's going to look super streaky because the ink won't dry evenly and you won't get a clean flat tone. Also, try to work from one direction to the next. Don't let one area dry as you start coloring another. It'll end up looking super splotchy like this. So as I mentioned earlier, small elongated circles or zigzag motion works. Just make sure that if you see streaks, to keep going over that area till it appears smooth. In this example, I'm starting on the left and saturating the full area before I start moving to the right. Alright, let's move to blending. So for me, there's two things you need to know. Which color combinations work better together and how to execute your blending technique. Trying to blend two opposing colors like this blue and orange obviously won't work since they're so opposite. But what happens if I take two somewhat similar tones and try to blend them together? You can literally blend as many colors as you want as long as the colors next to each other are similar in tone. Alright, I'm not the blending police. There's probably three main ways that I go about it when using alcohol markers. First, I color in the area with the lightest base. Then I add a darker tone and blend. Or you can start with the darkest tone and blend into a lighter tone. Alright, now let's apply what we've learned in a practical manner, using this picture. I'm going to show you how I easily give an outline the illusion of depth, using only 2 colors on this face. First, I'm going in and using my lightest tone and evenly coloring the entire face. You can leave a small little spot on the tip of the nose uncolored to act like highlight. But after we color in the face, I'm going to take a slightly deeper shade and just go around the edges of the jaw, the nose, or anywhere else that naturally protrudes from the face. So I'm darkening that area and kind of blending it out with the original lighter shade. Alright, like I mentioned before, I'm using the fine tip to go in and color in the eyes, blending a light blue into a dark blue. The ink does a lot of the work for you if the colors are close enough. And this is a small area, so the blend basically happens automatically. Now for the lips, it's basically the same thing. The base I'm using is a light red, and I'm going over the edges of the lips with a darker shade to give the lips more dimension. Benny, you almost made me forget to tell him about paper. Alright, so the paper you're using is super important when it comes to alcohol markers. The alcohol soaks into the paper really quickly. Regular paper, like printer paper, is too thin and weak. It tears, it warps, it peels when you try to blend it or layer. But thicker mixed media paper holds up and it actually looks smooth. It's smoother than watercolor paper but thicker than sketch paper. It gives you a bit more working time before the ink dries, and that's super important with alcohol markers. So I would say blending cardstock paper is another really good option. The reason is because of the smooth but durable surface it provides. The surface is kind of similar to like a whiteboard. It's got like a waxy smooth surface, so the color actually kind of floats on top, so it's super malleable and you can blend it around. Y'all hear this, right? Doesn't sound like regular paper. So instead of the alcohol immediately soaking into the fibers of like thicker paper, it just kind of sits on top. So your transition and colors end up looking really smooth and seamless. And that about does it for this video. Alcohol markers are easy to pick up, but hard to master. But with time and practice, you too will master it, young Jedi. So if this video helped you out at all, help me out by smashing that like button. I try to post daily too, so subscribe if you want to see more. And remember, not to get discouraged. Love yourself and your artwork. If someone puts you down, just brush it off. Look up to the skies and tell them to not minding your own business, bull. Art judging, dumb, stupid goofball. And have a nice day. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, y'all. Peace.